think like a teacher, how to grab your students by their brains. The mediocrity teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, and the great teacher inspires. Words by William Arthur Ward. Welcome to the Fresh Thinking School of Education. When students believe success is possible, they will try to teach or not to teach. It is a question that stumps many people. Far too many of us know bright, energetic people who spent 5 or more years earning a bachelor's degree and teaching credential only to quit after 1 or 2 years in the classroom. New teachers give up for a long laundry list of reasons. Still, the most common complaints include the following: disrespectful and disruptive students, apathetic administrators, overwhelming stacks of paperwork, lunchroom politics, parental pressure and pestering, mental or emotional exhaustion. Teaching is the most beautiful profession in the world. As a teacher, you make a direct, tangible contribution to the future of our country and the world by helping young people acquire knowledge and skills. You know that you are spending your life in an honorable pursuit and that your life has a purpose. Teaching provides endless challenges and opportunities for growth. Teaching tests your interpersonal communication skills, academic knowledge, or leadership ability daily. You will be tested in all 3 areas on a good day and pass all 3 tests. You have the opportunity as a teacher to share your passion for learning with young people. If you are a good teacher, you will also inspire, motivate, and challenge those youngsters to develop their strengths and talents. You will feel incomparable joy when one of them realizes how much you have given and makes their classroom give you a hug and a teary thank you. And you will cry. When you go home, you will share that student's thank you with your family and friends, and they will all cry a few tears. Super, excellent, or good? Well, I am indebted to my father for living, but to my teacher for living well. These words were said by Alexander the Great. Teachers come in 3 primary flavors: super, excellent, and sound. Of course, there are mediocre and sadly terrible teachers, but teaching poorly is not acceptable or excusable. So such practices are not included in our masterclass. Which flavor of the teacher you decide to become depends on your strengths, intimate relationships, professional goals, and individual priorities. Before you begin teaching, consider how much time and emotional energy you can afford to spend on your work outside the home. Take a long look at your life, relationships, financial, emotional obligations, and personal and career goals. If you find it hard to view your life objectively, discussing your situation with a friend or close relative may improve your perspective. Suppose your sister points out that you like expensive clothes, and your husband or wife reminds you that you become impatient and overly critical under stress, for example. In that case, you will need to decide whether you are willing to trim your wardrobe and to do the hard work required to develop more patience. Decide what is important to you and which aspects of your life should take priority. For example, will your children, parents, spouse, or partner feel neglected if you spend some free time creating lesson plans or counseling students? How much emotional energy will you need to conserve during the day to have enough left over for your family at night? Will you feel comfortable counseling students about their problems? Or will you instead leave such things up to their parents or guardians? There is no right or wrong answer to these questions. Still, knowing the answers before you begin teaching will make you a happier and more successful instructor. Not everybody can or should be a super teacher. It is perfectly acceptable to be an excellent or good teacher. Super teaching requires the highest physical, emotional, and mental energy. Studying great teachers will learn much more from their caring and hard work, from their lifestyle and their styles. Super teachers usually arrive at the school early and stay late. They also attend seminars, continuing education classes, volunteer for student activities, and make themselves available to students who need extra help, both in and out of the classroom. Because super teachers enjoy a solid rapport with their students, they don't have to focus so much time on energy on discipline in their classrooms. Instead, there is a give and take, an ebb and flow, the teaching equivalent of the runner's high that so many athletes find addictive. Unfortunately, unless they are extraordinary people with impressive natural energy, reserves, or super teachers make an effort to rejuvenate themselves regularly, they may find themselves in danger of burning out. Super teaching demands enormous physical and mental effort. Depending on your budget, it may also absorb some money. If you are single, childless, and unattached, you may devote the bulk of your energy to teaching for some time. However, suppose you are a single mother with 3 young children and have a close friend or intimate partner. In that case, you may not be willing or able to devote the emotional energy required to being a super teacher. Having children doesn't disqualify you from becoming a super teacher. It simply means that you must ensure your family understands and supports your teaching. If your children are well adjusted, self motivated, and respectful of you and your partner, I suppose your partner supports your career goals and has a high energy level. In that case, you may be able to handle the stresses involved in super teaching. But don't beat yourself up if you can't be extraordinary. Being an excellent or good teacher is an actual achievement. In the words of Susie Carson, author and acclaimed writer, and I quote, pick a leader who will make their citizens proud, one who will stir the people's hearts so that the sons and daughters of a given nation thrive to emulate their leader's greatness. Only then will a nation be treated when a leader inspires and produces citizens worthy of becoming future leaders, honorable decision makers, and peacemakers. And in these times, a great leader must be fearless. Their leadership must be steered only by their own conscience, not bribe. Close quote. Excellent teachers enjoy their work, but limit the time and energy they devote to teaching. Excellent teachers are about their students and do their best to help them, but not at the expense of their own families. Excellent teachers work overtime because teaching well requires a certain amount of unpaid time. Grading papers, making lesson plans, and supervising field trips. Still, excellent teachers limit the amount of overtime they are willing to work. Excellent teachers and teaching requires less energy expenditure than super teaching. However, excellent teaching may wear you out if you aren't careful. It will help if you still make time to nurture yourself and your family. You may have to explain more than once to your friends and family that your job is a high priority and that you need to spend some time in the evenings and on weekends developing your lessons and skills. Again, don't be too hard on yourself if you can't juggle as many teaching balls as you thought you could, especially during your first few years. Mastering just the basics of sound teaching is a significant accomplishment. Students still thrive in classrooms of good, old, everyday teachers. Excellent teachers do their jobs well but know their limits. They make an obvious distinction between professional and personal time. Excellent teachers treat their students with respect and do their best to ensure that all students learn the material required for the next level of education. Still, they don't feel obligated to save every student. Excellent teachers arrive at school early enough to be prepared, but they don't hold open house before or during lunch. And they don't spend hours in their classroom after school for informal chats or counseling sessions. Instead, they lock the doors to their classrooms at night and focus on their own lives, education, hobbies, friends, and families. Excellent teachers conserve their emotional and mental energy by creating distinct division between their personal and professional lives. As a result, good teachers often enjoy long and successful teaching careers. Excellent teachers are the ones who sadly wave goodbye to the excellent and super teachers who overestimated their resources and burst into flames after a few years of teaching at match speed. Sometimes teachers confess they feel a bit guilty for not having the energy or natural ability to be super teachers. Whether you choose to be a super, excellent, or good teacher, you will still contribute to society, perform practical and necessary work, and help shape our country's future. Aside from yourself, your students, and a few supervisors, nobody will know how much energy you devote to your job. But we don't become teachers out of a need for public recognition or reward. We don't teach out of a desire for a prestige. We teach because we believe it is essential. Teaching superbly is like running a marathon by yourself in the dark. Few people notice what you are doing, and those who notice don't pay much attention, but their oblivion doesn't slow you down. You still enjoy the thrill and satisfaction of finishing the race and are a winner. Look for teacher training programs focusing on successful leadership techniques instead of ineffective punitive disciplinary approaches. If possible, opt for a program in which teacher candidates do their student teaching during the first part of their educational program instead of the last. Some people, after just a few days in the classroom, that they weren't meant to be teachers. It is a shame when those who will be teachers face the choice of continuing in a teacher program they don't belong to, or changing to a new primary and spending thousands of rands preparing for a different career. And heaven helps the students and the teachers when these teachers who know they have chosen the wrong field decide to teach until they can afford to go back to school or find another job. Everybody loses in that situation. So suppose you have a burning desire to teach a subject you love. In that case, you may have to search your soul, situation and options. But some students want to learn as passionately as you want to teach. What is teaching all about? Well, Lila Gift Akita says, and I quote, "We must never forget our teachers, our lecturers, and our mentors. Their modalities have contributed to our academic, professional, and personal development." Close quote. Suppose you think carefully and analytically about your favorite teachers from elementary school to university level. In that case, you will recognize some common traits and behaviors. The teachers are teachers precisely because they remember what it was like to be a student. Someone inspired the teachers, someone influenced the teachers, or someone had them when they were students, and they channeled that into a unique hypothesis, life, and learning. And they were always looking for an opportunity to share them with each other, with students, parents, or the community. Do your homework. Why do so many teacher candidates ace their educational courses? Read all the latest journals, carefully observe good teachers shine like stars during their student teaching, and then crash and burn during their first year in the classroom? Because education, desire, intelligence, passion, and talent do not automatically enable you to communicate complex ideas to others. Your classroom is a miniature theater. It holds a small captive audience and an even smaller cast, and that is you. You are the show's star. And when you first stand on that stage, your small audience can seem overwhelmingly large. The brighter your spotlight, the faster you will capture your audience. Later, you may share the stage with your students, but you must take center stage until your students have learned their roles. Train your little darlings. How do you want students to feel and act in your classroom? Do you want them to sit quietly and raise their hands before responding to your questions? Or do you want them to speak freely, even if it means interrupting each other or you? Do you want them to feel free to come into your classroom early and chat with you or other students? Or do you want them to keep their socializing outside of the classroom and focus solely on the academic activities inside your room? Do you want students to engage in enthusiastic discussions in which they freely voice their personal opinions? Or do you prefer to control any discussion to avoid conflict and keep the conversation on the topic? Well, help your students believe in success. Brains like engines don't operate at peak efficiency when they are low on fuel, clogged by dirty oil, or missing small but critical parts. Be good to yourself. You deserve it. Teaching is challenging and exhausting, but it is worth the effort. You are touting and touching lives in a way that few people ever do. However, congratulations and thank you yourself for your time helping young people. You don't have to teach forever to earn your teacher wings. You have earned them already. The educational system should rely on three solid foundations: enhancing values, life skills, and a formal educational curriculum. Each of these bases completes the other. None of them can stand on its own. There is no use in having intelligent students who don't show respect and compassion or know how to live by values in life. Teaching involves far more than being educated and wanting to teach children. It involves a great deal of psychology, leadership, time management, and the ability to motivate people who aren't inclined to be motivated. Those skills can be learned, but require practical experience and real world application. Teachers are not officially psychological counselors, but a good understanding of introductory human psychology and emotional and mental development stages can make your job much easier and more enjoyable. For example, they can help you learn how to teach your unteachable students. Many of the techniques in this masterclass come directly from my own experience teaching at-risk, supposedly unreachable teens, many of whom were active in unkind criminal activities. However, by trial and error, we developed activities and strategies that help me reach them and teach them. Those same basic techniques work just as well with more skilled and motivated students because human brains operate the same way, regardless of people's age, income, culture, or IQ. We must never forget our teachers, our lecturers, and our mentors. Their capabilities and capacities have contributed to our academic, professional, and personal development. Great teachers have high expectations for their students, but even higher expectations for themselves. What do you think? Describe your own best and worst teachers. How will they influence the way you teach? What do you want your student to remember about you 20 or 30 years from now? Take a look at your class roles. How many students have you touched with love and compassion? How many have you touched? How do you respond when you see movies that are unrealistic in their portrayal of real life teaching? How do you categorize teachers as good, super, or excellent? Can you suggest an alternative method of categorizing teachers? How important do you believe psychology and leadership skills are to the new teachers? It is possible to develop such skills, still be an effective teacher? Which teaching philosophies from the list in this masterclass do you agree with? Which do you disagree with, and why? The masterclass, Teaching Outside the Box, is the go-to reference for improving classroom management, discipline, and motivation. From stating plans to Shakespeare, Teaching Outside the Box offers practical strategies to help new teachers and seasoned veterans create dynamic classroom environments where students enjoy learning and teaching. This indispensable masterclass is filled with no nonsense advice, checklists, and handouts, as well as step-by-step plan to make successful approaches for creating a positive discipline plan, methods for motivating students, especially reluctant readers, strategies for successful classroom management, suggestions for creating and grading student portfolios. Yours, Dr. Misha Masasikani Kosa, the Fresh Thinking Teacher. I thank you